मल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः. We'll spend a few minutes and just chant Shri Krishna Sharanam.
introduction to Mahabarata. I was actually wondering what you would say today. You nicely introduced it for me, so that was perfect. The other name for this wonderful text called Mahabharata is Jaya. Jaya is the other name for this text. Jaya means victory. And one may wonder, well, how can we be victorious in life? What does it mean to be victorious in life, and how does one achieve victory? Well, in this Mahabharata, in this over and over again, one phrase comes. Yato dharma, tato jaya. Where there is dharma, there is victory. If someone is seeking victory, well, if they find themselves on the side of dharma, victory is certain. And then one asks, well, how do you know what is dharma? And so the phrase that follows that phrase over and over again is Yato Krishna, Tato Dharma. Where there is Krishna, there is Dharma. And where there is Dharma, there is victory. So in short, you can say, where there is Krishna, there is victory. Very, very, very simple. If someone chooses the side of Bhagavan, if someone chooses the side of Dharma, there is victory. So now we're seeing, the interesting thing though is that when we look at the world, it doesn't seem that way. Does it seem like people who follow Dharma and are following goodness, they're the ones who are victorious? The world shows otherwise, isn't it? And so when we study these scriptures, like Mahabarata, Ramayana, it makes it very, very, very clear to us that in the short run, it might look like there is victory where there is not dharma, but in the long run it is impossible for there to be victory in the absence of dharma. Okay, so let me tell you all very briefly where we are in this great epic. We're on night 9, I think, right? And we have been seeing every night a little bit of the story. Is that better?
Yeah. Try to talk a little bit. The mic?
Okay, is this better? Volume?
Raise the volume.
Okay, so in this Mahabharata, where are we? There are two sets of cousins that are fighting with each other. There's one set of cousins called the Pandavas, made of 5 noble brothers. And on the other side, you have 100 wicked brothers called the Kauravas, led by Duryodhana. Duryodhana is the leader of the Kauravas, and on this other side, you have 5 noble brothers, Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, whose name is most famous, Nakula, and Sahadeva. These 5 brothers, along with their wife Draupadi, were unjustly wronged. They were humiliated, and things were done to them that should not have been done. And with cheating, their kingdom was usurped and taken away from them, and they were banished into the forest in exile for 12 years. For 13 years. For 12 years they had to live in the forest, and for 1 year, that remaining 13th year, they had to live incognito, meaning they had to live in hiding such that they were not discovered. And the condition was that if they are discovered in that 13th year, then they have to go back to the forest for another 12 years, and that whole cycle resets and starts all over again. And so the Pandavas are so noble that even though they were sent to the forest by trickery and cheating and all kinds of things, because they are so firm in the line of dharma, they follow the consequences of how they ended up there. It was a game of dice that they played, and the Kauravas cheated and won, and these Pandavas were sent to the forest. So now where we are in the story is that 12 years finished, they did a lot of tapas in the forest. The 13th year also, they spent in a kingdom called Virata Nagari. They spent in hiding, doing menial work. They were supposed to be emperors of this universe. They were doing menial work in this kingdom called Virat Nagari. Now the 13th year is finished. It is officially over. And when the 13th year is over, Duryodhana, who is the leader of the Kaurava army, he cannot accept the thought that he wasn't able to find them and send them back for 12 years. So he's trying to justify to himself that no, 13 years is not up yet, the year is not over, we're going to find them, we're going to expose them. And he gets wind of the fact that they're in this Virat Nagari, they're in this kingdom, and he goes there to expose them in a big treacherous scheme. Well, Arjuna single-handedly defeats Duryodhana and his whole army and sends them back to their kingdom. Now, the kingdom that they are staying in with Virat, King Virat, he's a noble king, and he does not know that it is the Pandavas who are actually in his kingdom in hiding. One is his advisor, one is a cook, one is a eunuch who's teaching dancing and singing to his daughter, one is taking care of the horses, one is taking care of the cattle, one is his queen's beautician, and so for 1 year they've remained in hiding like this. Now the year is just about over finally, and this king Virat had gone to fight with the allies of the Kauravas, and they were separated from his son, who Arjuna fought alongside his son to defeat this other side of the Kauravas. So now they are waiting for the return of Arjuna and this young prince who they think has fought and defeated the Kaurava army. And the king Virat goes on saying, my son is so amazing. He was able to defeat this whole army. Look how great he is. And Yudhishthira, who is his advisor, says, I had no doubt that he would win because with him is Brahmanala. This Brahmanala is actually Arjuna, who is disguised as a half woman, half man for this 1 year, right? And so in the king's mind, well, that's just like a woman who teaches dancing and singing. What does she know about fighting? And why is Yudhishthira going on and on and on saying that it is because of her that the prince was able to defeat the Kaurava army? Not knowing it's Arjuna who actually did the whole fighting. Right? Anyways, finally this, when you have a child and you're trying to praise your child and tell everybody how wonderful your child is, and at that time, the person opposite you is like, yes, but look, my child is even greater. The parent gets so angry. And so Yudhishthira's, this King Virat, he gets angry at Yudhishthira this time, and they were playing a game of dice. And he picks up the dice and he throws it at Yudhishthira in anger. And the dice hits Yudhishthira's face, his forehead, and it starts to bleed. And Draupadi, his queen, is there at that time, and she runs to him. He tries to stop his blood from falling, and she runs to him with a bowl of water for him to wash his hands, and she uses her sari to help him to stop the bleeding. And the king is like, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? Who are you? And she says to him, you don't know who this person is. This person is so noble that if for every drop of blood that touches the ground, the country where it touches the ground, that kingdom, will have 1 year of famine for every single drop of his blood that touches the ground. And the person who caused that blood to fall on the ground, that person's death is certain. And she said, so I am actually saving you. And he says, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And then that whole thing is dissolved because right then, this Prince Uttara comes in with this Brahmanala, and they have just won the battle. And this prince is not allowed to tell that it was Arjuna who fought for him. And so his father says, well, how did you defeat them? And he says, well, some divine being came and helped me, and that is how I won. Anyways, like this, the night ends, and everybody goes back to their rooms. And then Arjuna and Bhima found out how Yudhishthira was hurt. And they got so angry and they wanted to go and attack the king and all that. And Yudhishthira says, no, but he doesn't know who I am, so you can't blame him. And he says, anyways, now the 13th year is up. And because they had defeated the army on behalf of the kingdom, technically this kingdom now belongs to them. And so he said, tomorrow we will go and sit on the throne and then we'll see what happens. So the next morning, now remember, this is 13 years after they have lived like tapasvis in the forest, and they've lived menially doing all kinds of things. After 13 years, they finally take like a royal bath, and they dress in royal clothing, and they come out and they sit on the throne of this king. And this King Virat, he walks into his court, into his assembly, and he says, he says to Yudhishthira, he says, no, I treated you like my friend, and I told you whatever I have is yours, but what kind of audacity do you And one by one he introduces Bhima, himself, Nakula, Sahadev, and Draupadi. And the king is just in so much shock. He cannot believe that in his kingdom, for one whole year, such great beings were living and offering service to him. And he says, I am so sorry that you had to go through all of this, and I'm so sorry for everything that I have done and what I have made you. I took work from you. And they said, no, we have been so happy here, and most of our time here has been wonderful. Thank you for letting us hide here. And he says, the king says at that time, he says, please take my kingdom. What I have is yours. And before he found out that it was Arjuna who fought the battle, he said, whoever that divine being was that helped Uttara, the prince, win the battle, he said, I want to give my daughter in marriage to that person. And so now he finds out that it is Arjuna, this great warrior, hero Arjuna, who actually won the battle. And so he says, well, I'd like to offer my daughter to you in marriage. And Arjuna says, but I have been teaching her singing and dancing for the past year like my daughter. I cannot marry her. I cannot think of marrying her also. And he said, but I have a son, Abhimanyu, and she will be perfect for him. So she has been my daughter, and I'd like for her to remain my daughter, but as a daughter-in-law of our family. And so, with great excitement now, everyone prepares for the wedding of Abhimanyu with the king of Virat's daughter. Her name is Uttara. So Abhimanyu and Uttara are now about to get married. As all of this is happening, a messenger comes from Hastinapur, from Duryodhana, and that messenger says to the Pandavas that we spotted Arjuna before the 13th year was up, and therefore you all have to go back into exile for 12 years as per the condition. Duryodhana has been told by all the elders that the 13th year is over. In fact, Yudhishthira is so noble that, in the Hindu calendar, every year you get an extra few weeks and then the year elongates a little bit. Yudhishthira is so noble that even the extra 5.5 months that accumulated over the 13 years, he counted that also, and that also is finished. And so the 13 years is definitely over. But when somebody is wicked, what else do you expect from them? So Duryodhana sends this message. Now you hear this message, what will your response be? Yudhishthira says, tell him, I will, whatever Bhishma Pitama, whatever our grandfather says, I will listen to that. If he says the 13 years is over, it's over. And if he says it's not over, then I am ready to go back into exile. And he hasn't spoken to his grandfather, but he knows he's on the side of Dharma. He knows his year is up. And he says to the messenger, tell them that I will send my messenger. Until then, please leave us alone. This is Yudhishthira's words to the messenger back to Duryodhana. Now the talk of the town is that the Pandavas are out of exile, and what is Duryodhana going to do? You can imagine if there were news channels, that would be the only thing going on every single news channel, right? What is Duryodhana going to do now? Because they know he is so wicked. Well, all the friends and family of these Pandavas come to this kingdom now to get Uttara married to Abhimanyu. Bhagavan Krishna comes, Balaram comes, and it's a very emotional time and meeting for everybody. Parents are meeting children after so long, and now they're all wondering what is going to happen. And so we enter now into the next chapter of the Mahabharata called the Udyoga Parva. The Udyoga Parva focuses on how the Pandavas, these noble brothers, try to make peace with the Kauravas. How to... Udyoga means effort. They put effort in to fight for Dharma, first by trying to avert a war, to save lives. And when that doesn't work, well then they prepare for war. So now we enter this Udyoga Parva. After Abhimanyu's wedding, and everyone realized, well now we have to face the reality. And what is the reality? There's no more false sense of security. The Kauravas were supposed to return the kingdom to the get their kingdom back. But they knew that Duryodhana did not want to give it back. They also knew that their future was connected to the fate of the world because so many people's lives were at stake depending on what happened. And so Bhagavan Sri Krishna gets up in this assembly of all the friends and family, and he recounts all the wicked things that these Kauravas have done to the Pandavas. From the time they were little, these Kauravas have tried to kill them multiple times. They tried poison, they tried to burn them, they tried to disrobe their wife, they tried to they tried to usurp their whole kingdom by treachery. They sent them into exile. While they were in exile, they continued to bully them and show off and all kinds of things. And so Krishna reminds everybody that the Pandavas will never swerve from dharma. And so what we have to do now is we have to make a decision in consideration of dharma. And he says that this Yudhishthira is so noble that for the sake of peace, he knows he will even forsake the kingdom. If it means getting peace, he will be ready to do anything to get peace. This is who Yudhishthira is, right? But everybody knows that the kingdom belongs to him, and so it should rightly come back to him. And he praises Yudhishthira. Lord of the universe now praises this Yudhishthira. He says he's a saint among men. He has never complained. And it is not in his nature to talk ill of other people. But now something needs to be done. And so Bhagavan Krishna invites opinions of what should be done. And in a big discussion, it is concluded that they should send a messenger of peace to Hastinapur to speak to them and try to make peace and avoid a war and get their kingdom back peacefully. And they also understand that most likely Duryodhana is not going to give in. So they say, while we are fighting, while we are trying to get peace, at the same time, what we should do is we should send our messengers to all the different kingdoms to see who will be our allies for this war that is bound to happen. And so they start to try to rally troops that will support them if they have to fight a war. Why is the war being fought? Remember, the war is being fought because the Pandavas have been deprived of their kingdom unjustly. But more than that, the Kauravas represent every form of adharma that is possible to take place. And a ruler is not supposed to be adharmic because all the citizens face the consequences of an adharmic ruler. And if they are ruling such a grand kingdom, imagine how many people are suffering as a result of them. So it is in the best interest of the entire country, the entire kingdom, for there to be a just ruler. The act of Duryodhana returning the kingdom to the Pandavas would be one act in his direction of doing some dharma, right? But Duryodhana is so wicked that he cannot even imagine. So a messenger is sent to Hastinapur with the instruction that when you go, don't give any indication that the Pandavas are weak and they're scared. Go and state the facts. Go and let the elders in that kingdom realize that they're all on the side of adharma. Let them inspire them, and he says you follow dharma when you go and give this message. So now the messenger is on their way to Hastinapur. Well, everybody is thinking, who's going to fight on our side? And Arjuna realizes, if we have to fight a war, we have to have Bhagavan Krishna with us. We need Krishna. Bhagavan Krishna and Arjuna are best friends, right? And Arjuna doesn't think of Bhagavan Krishna just as a friend. He knows he's the Lord of the universe. And so Arjuna heads off now to Dwarka to ask Bhagavan Krishna to be on the Pandava side for this war. Duryodhana's spies go and tell Duryodhana that this is where Arjuna is going. And so his wicked Mamu Shakuni says, you go because if Krishna is on their side, they're going to win, right? And so Shakuni Mama sends Duryodhana to also go to Krishna to ask for help. Now it so happens that Duryodhana shows up first to Bhagavan Shri Krishna's palace. And Bhagavan Shri Krishna is sleeping. And so Duryodhana goes and he sits on a chair at the head of Bhagavan Shri Krishna's bed. A few minutes later, Arjuna arrives. And Arjuna goes and stands at the feet of Bhagavan Krishna. When Bhagavan Shri Krishna wakes up, he opens his eyes and who does he see? Arjuna. And so he says, "Oh, Arjuna, you are here. What are you doing? What can I do for you?" And from the back, hello, Krishna, I am here too. Duryodhana is like, I am here too. And not only am I here, I came first. So I'm going to ask you first what I want. And he said, well, see, before Duryodhana could ask, Krishna said, well, I know why you're here. I know why you're both here. You both want to come and ask me to fight for you. Now see my problem. Duryodhana is saying he came first, but I saw Arjuna first. And so the fair thing for me to do will be to give you both something. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give my whole army to one of you. My entire army to one of you. And to one of you, I will give myself, Krishna. But I will come with the condition that I will not lift a single weapon during the war. So you get to choose me, weaponless, or you get to choose my whole army to fight for you. And he says, because Arjuna is younger, I'm going to ask Arjuna to choose first. And so Arjuna says, well, Bhagavan, all I want is you. With tears he says that I don't care about your army, I just want you. And Duryodhana at this time thinks, phew, like Arjuna is so stupid. Oh, why would you choose a person when you need an army to fight? But this is the turning point of the Mahabarata. When Arjuna chooses Bhagavan Shri Krishna, the fate of both sides of the armies is sealed. Because remember, where there is Krishna, there is victory. So victory is guaranteed now for the Pandavas because Bhagavan Krishna is officially on their side. And so now Duryodhana leaves and Bhagavan Shri Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. And he says, Arjuna, you're so silly. You're so foolish. Why would you choose me instead of my army? You need people to fight for you. And Arjuna looks at him and he says, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, I don't care if I win or I lose. I want you. That is who I want. And he says, so Bhagavan Krishna says, well, I'm useless. What will I do? And Arjuna says, I want you to be my charioteer. I want you to not only take the reins of my horses in your hand, but the reins of my life. And when you have the reins of my life in your hands, I have absolutely nothing to worry about. You know, if we can live like this, our life will be wonderful. And the irony is that our life, the reins of our life are already in Bhagavan's hands. The only problem is that we don't know. I don't know if you've heard this phrase, that a person who has faith can never worry. And the corollary of that is a person who worries, it means they don't have faith. When Bhagavan Krishna is holding the reins of our life, and we have faith that our life is in his hands, there is absolutely no reason to worry. And so Arjuna says to Bhagavan Shri Krishna, I have absolutely no worry once you're with me. End of story. Like that. And so Bhagavan Shri Krishna is very pleased, and now it is determined that his army is going to go fight for the other side. And he tells his friend Satyaki afterwards that this Mahu Shakuni who sent Duryodhana to get the army, he doesn't know that Duryodhana has left with the skin of the fruit. And the real rasa is with Arjuna. What will be if you have a banana and one person gets the peel? they're not the one who lucked out. You know, but perception is such a thing that Duryodhana thought he got the better side of it. Anyways, this this is a very famous story because it is also the story of our life. You know, every single day, we are given a choice to choose the world, represented by the army, or Bhagavan. And who do we choose? Do we choose the world, or do we choose Bhagavan? Do we choose what is pleasant, or do we choose what is good? I'll tell you what we do. Most of us, we ask Bhagavan to help us to get the world. Is that not how it works? Oh Bhagavan, I have a test tomorrow, please help me to pass. Oh Bhagavan, I have this big job that I'm trying to land, please help me to get it. Oh Bhagavan, I have this terrible disease, please help me to get rid of it. So we go to Bhagavan, but not because we want Bhagavan. We go to Bhagavan to ask him for something else in the world. You know, it is said that every single character in the Mahabarata is inside us. And when we look at Duryodhana and we see his wickedness and his hatred and his jealousy and his ego and his obnoxiousness, we think it is not possible that there is a Duryodhana in me. Right? But you see this quality of Duryodhana, where he went to Bhagavan to get help without choosing Bhagavan. Is that not what we do? That every time that we choose the world over Bhagavan, every time that we choose something easy over something good, we are being Duryodhana at that time. Anyways, the other really cool thing there is Duryodhana went to the head of Bhagavan and Arjuna went to the feet of Bhagavan. Right there you see the difference in their whole attitude, their bhava, their whole approach. Right? Okay. So now the war is coming. And so everyone is trying to collect their armies and who is going to fight with who and all of this, right? Now, there is one king called Shalya. And King Shalya happens to be the uncle of two of the Pandavas, their mother's brother. And so Yudhishthira sends word to say, you please come. You know, this war is happening, please come. And so King Shalya is on his way. And Shalya is very, very, very powerful. And so Duryodhana hears that this King Shalya is coming on invitation of Yudhishthira. See how wicked he is. He sets up camps along the path of Shalya. And every time Shalya and his troops are tired, there's a camp there with food and drink and rest and people to take care of them along the way. And so Shalya thinks this is my nephew Yudhishthira who has organized all of this. And he says, whoever has done all of this planning and taken care of me like this, I'm going to give them whatever they want. And so he tells the people who are taking care of him, go and tell Yudhishthira, I'm so pleased with him. And they say, no, this is not Yudhishthira, this is Duryodhana who has done all this. And King Shalya is just shocked. He's like, oh my god, Duryodhana? You know, and so Duryodhana comes, and King Shalya is a man of his word. So he said, well, I said whoever offered this hospitality to me, I will give them whatever it is that they want. And he said, what do you want? Well, what do you think Duryodhana wants? He says, now this is the Mamu of two of the Pandavas. He says, I want you to fight for us. And King Shalya is in a bind because his family is on the other side. And now he has to fight on the wicked side. Because in those days, their words were so, they really stuck to their words. Not like us. If they said something, they meant it. Words were real. They were not fake like they are today. Okay? Alright. So he says to him, okay, fine. My word is my word. I will fight for you. But I want to go and meet Yudhishthira. And I want to go and give them my blessings first. So he's fighting on the Kaurava side. But his blessings are on the side of the Pandavas. And so he goes and he tells Yudhishthira what happened. And Yudhishthira says, well, I am not sad that you are fighting for them instead of us. He says, what I'm sad about is that we have to fight against you now. See Yudhishthira's heart? He doesn't say it's not fair. He says, it is a sad thing that I have to fight my uncle. And so, anyways, Yudhishthira says, okay, no problem, I understand, you have no choice, this is the way it is, but I'm going to ask you something. I know it is not the best thing that I'm asking you, but I know they're going to ask you to be the charioteer of Karna. Karna is Duryodhana's best friend, and he's very, 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 very powerful. And he's the one person that Yudhishthira is afraid of on the other side, because he knows that he's the one person that can defeat all of them. And so he says to Shalya, the day that they ask you to be the charioteer of Karna, I want you to talk about Arjuna's greatness, to break down Karna's morale, because that is the only way we're going to be able to defeat him. And so it's dampen his spirits a little bit. And so Shalya says, okay, no problem. And he gives his blessings, and he goes now back to the Kaurava camp where he has to fight. So now, in the Mahabharata, there's this elaborate description of how the armies are being collected and the sizes of the armies. And the number of people that fight this war is, there are 11 what is called akshahinis, or groups of the army on the Kaurava side, and there are 7 akshahinis on the Pandava side. That is 18 in total. It sounds small, but the numbers, 11 akshahinis is about 2.5 million people. 2.5 million. And 7 akshahinis is about 1.4 million people. So you're talking, that's about 4 million, just under 4 million people total. Correct? Mathematically. 4 million is like 5 times the population of Guyana. Right? Imagine every single person in Guyana times 5 is now going to fight a war where this mass destruction is going to happen. Imagine Yudhishthira. He is so noble that even though he has been so ill-treated, he wants to find every possible way to avert the war in consideration of so many lives being lost. All for what? The arrogance of one man. So now we're going to see, this whole conversation can be wrapped up in saying, they tried to make peace and then the Kauravas didn't listen and now they had to fight. But the negotiations that happen are very instructive for us to learn to think also about how we make decisions in our life and how to determine between, what is the right thing, what is the wrong thing, when a situation comes that we feel helpless and how to handle it. So we're going to see a little bit of the negotiations that went back and forth between these two parties until the war happens. Okay? So now you go back to, remember there was a messenger going to Hastinapur to try and make peace. And so this messenger reaches and he speaks to Duryodhana's father. Duryodhana's father's name is Dhritarashtra. He is a blind king. And so he goes and he addresses Dhritarashtra. And he says that the Pandavas have suffered enough because of their cousins. And they have asked for their kingdom back. And they have said, we don't want war. You just give us back our kingdom and everything will go back to as it was. We're not asking for your kingdom, we're asking for our rightful kingdom. And so Bhishma says, the grandfather Bhishma, he says yes, what is being said is correct. And Karna, who is Duryodhana's wicked friend, he says, we don't listen to them, we will fight them, send them back into the forest for 12 years. And so he's chucking fire and this whole thing, right? And he's saying, I will single-handedly fight them. And at this time, Bhishma Pitamaha, this grandfather, he gets angry. And he says, I have gone on hearing for the past years and years, decades, I have gone on hearing this friend of yours saying he will single-handedly defeat Arjuna, he will single-handedly defeat the Pandavas. But let me give you a reality check. Just a few days ago, Arjuna single-handedly defeated every single one of us together. And this friend of yours who's saying he can defeat him, he did nothing. He ran away. So don't listen to someone who thinks they're better than they are. He says, I'm sick of these words of this friend of yours. I'm sick of your words, Karna, like this, he says. And so, big fighting, lecture is going on now in this sabha, in the Hastinapur, in the palace in Hastinapur. And so Dhritarashtra, he feels very helpless. And so he says, okay, you please let the Pandavas know that I will send my message with my charioteer Sanjaya in a few days. And so he sends them off. In a few days now, Sanjaya, who is the charioteer of Dhritarashtra, who is a wonderful, wonderful soul. In fact, he becomes the narrator in Bhagavad Gita. Sanjaya Uvacha, we'll see when we get there, right? And so Sanjaya is now made to take a message from King Dhritarashtra to the Pandavas who have appealed for their rightful kingdom back. And the Pandavas are so happy to see this Sanjaya, and they ask him how he is, and they just spend a few minutes enjoying meeting each other, right? And now Sanjaya explains that the king, he has been suffering for all of these years because of the injustice that has been done to all of you brothers. And he gives his message. And he says, before I give the message, I want you to know that I do not endorse this message. I do not think that it is the right thing. Please don't get angry with me. I'm just the messenger of what Dhritarashtra has said. Now see, this message of Dhritarashtra is so twisted and so convoluted and so cryptic and so like you want to strangle him after you hear what he has to say. The sentiment of the message is, we want peace. Dhritarashtra's response to Yudhishthira is, we want peace. Let's see what he says. He says to Yudhishthira, look, at the end of the day we want peace and you want peace. He says, if we go to war, even if you win, you think you can be happy having killed so many people and your kingdom is stained with the blood of your family? You think you will be happy? So now Yudhishthira realizes that Dhritarashtra's response is not going to be easy. And he realizes that the mind of Dhritarashtra is like fire. It can never be satiated. He's more wicked than actually the most wicked people over there. And so he says, Yudhishthira realizes that he only wants to please his son. And see, the message of Dhritarashtra. I'm telling paraphrase, but I want to tell a few things. Why do you want to bring up this 13-year-old thing now? This is his message. He said, if you wanted to fight and reclaim your kingdom, you should have done it at that time, 13 years ago, when you were banished to the forest, when you lost the game of dice. Why did you wait the 13 years? Waiting meant you don't care about this. You don't want your kingdoms. Why didn't you fight then? Huh? Then he says, well, if Duryodhana wants to fight, at least you shouldn't want to fight. I think you should go back to the forest and you should just live on alms or go to Krishna's kingdom and just beg and live on him, And so Dhritarashtra says, you should choose peace by not fighting for the kingdom, and so you should go back to the forest. Means if we go to war, it is because you have not chosen peace. So he turns this whole thing around and he puts it on Yudhishthira and he says, Yudhishthira, you should be more noble, you should be more detached, you should know better, you should surrender, you shouldn't fight even if Duryodhana wants to fight. Totally ignoring the heart of the issue, which is that all that the Pandavas were doing was following dharma. And so now everybody is fuming. Yudhishthira is really, really angry at this point, right? But they have no anger against Sanjaya. He's just a messenger, But Yudhishthira's answer, now what will your answer to be at this point? Yudhishthira's answer is, I will do whatever Bhagavan Krishna says. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Bhagavan Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam praja. Giving up all dharma, adharma, everything. You take total refuge in me. And this is exactly what Yudhishthira does at this time. And so Krishna says, I want to see what is best for the Pandavas. He says, has Dhritarashtra lost his mind? I don't even understand his message. And he tells Yudhishthira that it is Kshatriya dharma to fight for justice. He says a Kshatriya, a warrior, does not have family. A Kshatriya only has enemies and friends. If you are on the side of the law, you are a friend. And if you are on the side against the law, then you are an enemy. And he says, these people have not treated you like family. Why do you have a soft spot for them? It is time to punish the sons of this Dhritarashtra. It is time to put them in place. He says to Sanjaya, your king has no right to talk about dharma. Like, how dare he talk about dharma to the person who's following dharma? And he says, your king is living like a thief, right? On stolen kingdom of the Pandavas. And he says, actually what they had done to Draupadi is enough grounds to kill all of them. And still, we are offering peace. Not because we are scared, but because we care about the lives of the sons of Dhritarashtra. Because we care about how many people are going to lose their lives because of the stubbornness of one single person. And so Krishna says, go and tell him that I am coming to speak to that stupid Duryodhana. Krishna says, and now I am going to come to speak to him. Imagine Bhagavan Shri Krishna now says, I am going to be the final peace messenger. And he says at this time, he says there is a tree in Hastinapur. This tree is Duryodhana. The trunk of the tree is Karna. The branches of this tree is Shakuni, the wicked mama. And the fruits and the flowers are Duryodhana's second brother, Dushasana. And he said, the root of this tree is a man called Dhritarashtra. So what is it that is holding this tree of Duryodhana up, keeping it alive? The root is Dhritarashtra. Then he said, that is the evil tree. Having seen that tree, see this other tree. This other tree is called Yudhishthira. The trunk of this tree is called Arjuna. The branches is Bhima. The fruits and the flowers are Nakula and Sahadeva. So now all four brothers are gone. What is remaining to be the root? He says the root of this tree of Yudhishthira is me. I am the root of this tree of the Pandavas. And he said, when the storm of the war comes, which tree do you think is going to be left standing? The tree of Duryodhana or the tree of Yudhishthira? This is his message. And so Sanjaya again says, I don't share their sentiment. I don't agree with what they're saying. I'm just the messenger. And Yudhishthira says, I know. He says, even if you put poison in a golden bowl, it is still a golden bowl. And so he tells Sanjaya, I don't think anything low of you. And he says, tell Duryodhana very nicely that you are a great king. Be great and return the kingdom to us and everything will be fine. And Arjuna gets up and he's like, how dare you say that go and tell Duryodhana he's a great king. Don't be nice to him. Go and tell him to release Indraprastha from his clutches, or I'm going to come and I'm going to put him in place, and for making Yudhishthira sleep on the floor for 12 years in the forest, I'm going to make his whole army sleep on the battlefield now. And Arjuna is filled with this anger, and Yudhishthira calms Arjuna down and he says, listen, Sanjaya, tell them, if they don't want to give me my entire kingdom, if they don't want to give me my entire kingdom, okay, no problem. At least give us 5 villages. And he calls the name of 5 villages that they should give. And with that, Sanjaya goes back. Sanjaya goes back to the palace and he meets Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra says, what happened? What happened? Because he wants to know, is there war? Is there not war? Is there a war? Is there not a war? And Sanjaya says, I was so happy there. There was so much joy and so much love there. I don't like you. You made me do the most unpleasant thing, and you are so unrighteous, and your sons are poppies because of you, and I'm tired and I need to rest. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. This is a charioteer telling Dhritarashtra, I've had enough of you. Because when you go into an atmosphere of dharma, having been surrounded by adharma so long, you realize the difference in the whole energy of the place. And so he comes back realizing what a contrast everything is. And he's like, I can't handle this anymore, I will tell you tomorrow. Now Dhritarashtra's mind is so disturbed because he doesn't know what the response is. And so he calls Vidurji. Vidurji is his prime minister, who is also his brother. And he tells Vidurji that, I am so disturbed, I'm not able to sleep. Please tell me how I can sleep. And Vidurji says, you have not been able to sleep since the day you took away the kingdom from the Pandavas. And he says, the way that you will be able to sleep is by returning their kingdom. He tells Dhritarashtra this. And he says, you're not wise, you're very foolish. He tells Dhritarashtra. And instead of Dhritarashtra listening, Dhritarashtra's like, well, tell me, who is a foolish person and who is a wise person? And he makes Vidurji spend the whole night talking to him about ethics. There's this wonderful section called Vidura Niti, where Vidurji gives counsel to Dhritarashtra on how to be a good king, how to live nobly. There are so many things that Vidurji talks about. Dhritarashtra asks about death. And Vidurji, that's the section where Sanata Sujati also comes. Famous sections. I'm not going to touch it, because if I touch it, we're not going anywhere again, right? But the point is, Dhritarashtra had so much good counsel, endless good counsel, and nothing changed in him. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So now the next day, in the court, Sanjaya starts to tell what all happened when he went to meet the Pandavas. And Bhishma, Pitamaha, the grandfather, he says, they have dharma, they have Krishna, they are invincible. It is not possible for you to fight them. Give them back their kingdom. And Karna says, don't listen to him. I will single-handedly fight them. And Bhishma is like, are you joking? Like, he's just tired of this Karna. And Duryodhana gives Bhishma an insulting look, and Bhishma just gets fed up and he stays quiet. Dronacharya also agrees that the kingdom should be returned. Their guru also agrees. And Dhritarashtra hears the words of Yudhishthira that he had sent back with Sanjaya, and he gets scared now for the life of his sons. And Sanjaya says to Dhritarashtra, actually, you are the true sinner, not Yudhishthira. For years you have been listening to Vidurji counsel you, tell you what is right, tell you what is wrong, and still you have done absolutely nothing to control this Duryodhana. You are the worst enemy of your child, actually, and your sons are not going to be killed for their papa, they're going to be killed for your papa. He tells him very clearly, you are at fault for this son's behavior. And he says, yes, it is true you were born blind, but it is by your own doing that you are blind inside also. Sanjaya tells him with no vague words that you are being absolutely ridiculous. You have ruined yourself. And then Duryodhana realizes that Dhritarashtra is afraid, and he starts to speak, and he says, no, don't worry. Have you not seen how great our army is? We have Bhishma who can never be killed, we have Karna, we have this person, we have that person. And Dhritarashtra asks Sanjaya, are they as confident as Duryodhana is about winning the war? And Sanjaya says they're very confident they will win, but they are trying to avoid the war because they want peace. They don't want to see the destruction of so many people. And he says they're happy with even 5 villages. Just give 5 villages. And at this point, Dhritarashtra is very afraid. And he says to Duryodhana, okay, give them the 5 villages. And Duryodhana says, he says 2 things. 1, I am not even going to give the amount of land that will fit on the tip of a needle. This is Duryodhana's answer. And he says, look, his reasoning is, if I give them the 5 villages, what is 5 villages? 5 villages in a huge kingdom is nothing actually. If I give 5 villages, it will mean I am admitting that I was wrong. And I refuse to admit that I was wrong, because I was not wrong. He thinks he's not wrong. After everyone is telling him he's wrong, he thinks he's not wrong. And now his father tells him, no, but look, they have divine help. Hanumanji is on the flag of Arjuna. Bhagavan Krishna is on their side. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, they're going to win. And here Duryodhana's answer. He gets angry and he says, well, God is supposed to be impartial. God can't choose sides. How can God choose their side? Hear craziness? Anyways, Dhritarashtra now realizes that his sons are going to die. And Yudhishthira finds out that they haven't accepted the proposal. And so Yudhishthira tells Bhagavan Krishna that Dhritarashtra's intelligence has been clouded by his love, his attachment for his son. And so he can't see clearly. Actually, it is exactly the case with us. Whenever we are clouded by attachment for somebody or for something, we stop seeing clearly. Have you observed parents like that? Parents are the big culprit in this, huh? They see their child and out of attachment for their child, they're ready to give their child anything that the child wants. Even if it is not good for the child, and even if the parent knows it is not good for the child, the child says, they give them the puppy eyes, or they give them attitude, they give them anger, they throw every single kind of drama. And the parent, out of attachment, scared that the child will stop loving them, gives in. Is that not what happens in the world? That is exactly what happened to Dhritarashtra. He gave in to Duryodhana. And so now, Yudhishthira says, well, Krishna, you please try. Final hope. Try let's have peace. And Krishna says, and Yudhishthira says, I'm only afraid that if you go, they're going to harm you. And Bhagavan Krishna said, don't worry, they can't do anything to me. I can kill all of them in an instant, right? And he said, the other thing is that I know they're not going to accept this method of peace. I know they're not going to give back your kingdom. But I'm going to go there, in spite of knowing that they're not going to give it back, to show them your character, to talk about your nobility, your goodness, so that they can see who it is they are fighting against. So Bhagavan goes there to glorify Yudhishthira. Actually, that is his purpose of going. Huh? And so he says, I'm going to go and try and get peace, but you have to prepare for war. And Yudhishthira keeps saying, try and get peace at any cost. And at this time, Bhima, who is the next brother in line, he's this big guy who's really angry at the Pandavas. He also says, you know what? Let there be peace. And Bhagavan Krishna says, really, Bhima, you who's been angry for 13 years non-stop, you want peace? And then Arjuna also says, yes, Bhagavan, whatever you think is right. And then one by one, everyone else is turning their tune and saying, yes, if let us go for peace. Draupadi, she says, I want war. I want to see all of them killed. She says, Bhagavan, don't forget your promise to me. She said, I understand Yudhishthira will want peace, fine. But what happened to this Bhima, this Arjuna, this Nakula? What's wrong with them? How are they saying we want peace? I don't want peace, I want war. And Bhagavan said, Draupadi, I have not forgotten my promise to you. You will get your revenge. Do not worry. Huh? And so like this, Bhagavan sets off now for Hastinapur. In Hastinapur, now they plan to receive Bhagavan Krishna. And Dhritarashtra is thinking if Bhagavan Krishna is coming, then we should shower him with gifts. And so he tells Vidarji, we should plan to receive him with grandeur and give him presents and jewels and all kinds of things, right? And Vidarji says, Dhritarashtra, it is true that Bhagavan is the greatest person in this universe. And so he deserves the greatest. But what you are doing is you are trying to bribe him. You will not give 5 villages, and you want to give gems and jewels all of a sudden. He's not going to accept your bribery. He's not cheaply bought like this. This is Vidarji's response to Dhritarashtra. You can't buy him with your cheap wealth. Duryodhana says, yes, that is true, we can't buy him. I have a plan on how to conquer the Pandavas. When Krishna comes, I am going to capture him. I'm going to kidnap him. I'm going to bind him. This is Duryodhana's big plan on how he's going to defeat the Pandavas now. Right? I'm going to imprison the Pandavas' friend called Krishna. And everyone is shocked and everybody is disgusted by what Duryodhana has come up with. Well, the next day Bhagavan Sri Krishna arrives and he is welcomed into the palace and he's made to sit on this chair made of jewels and he's received. And then there's like a nice side story where he asks, whose palace is this? And Duryodhana says, this is my palace, right? So he says, okay. And he gets up and he walks out. And he goes now to the house of Vidarji. And he asks, whose home is this? And Vidarji says, this is your home, Bhagavan Krishna. And Bhagavan Krishna says, it is here that I am going to stay. And so Bhagavan Krishna goes in And Kunti Ma, the mother of the Pandavas, has been staying with Vidurji for these past 13 years. And she sees Bhagavan Krishna now for the first time in 13 years. She's hearing about her sons, and in a very emotional scene, Bhagavan Krishna says, "Don't worry, your days of suffering are over now." And Vidurji and his wife are overjoyed that Bhagavan Krishna has come to meet them and is staying with them. And there's a story about how, out of so much devotion and love, Vidurji's wife is offering fruits to Bhagavan Krishna. And she's so lost in her devotion that she's peeling the bananas, and instead of giving Bhagavan the bananas, she's giving Bhagavan the skin of the bananas. And Bhagavan Krishna, also lost in this devotion, is eating the skin of these bananas, right? And Vidurji comes and he's like, what's going on? But there's just so much love, so much bhakti, so much emotion there that it shows Bhagavan doesn't care about riches. He doesn't care about who we are. He doesn't care what we have. That famous line is there, no? Sabse unchi prem sadai. The greatest relationship is that of love. And that line is from this section of Mahabharata, where he renounced the meva of Duryodhana and he went to eat sag in Vidurji's home. And so now, the next day, Duryodhana asks Krishna the next day, but I made so much nice food for you and I prepared so much hospitality for you. Why did you not accept my hospitality? And Bhagavan Krishna said, because I don't relish food in the home of somebody who is wicked. Straight. He tells him straight. I don't eat food in the home of somebody who is not righteous. And he tells Duryodhana that you are an enemy to my Pandavas and you're my soul, and I don't eat my enemy's food. So that's why. He says, when my work is done, maybe I'll eat with you, but not now. And Vidurji says, well, why do you waste your breath on this Duryodhana when you know he's not going to listen? And Bhagavan Krishna says, I am trying to avert this one more final time. And he says, I'm trying to do it for humanity. And he says, the greatest man that has been born on this earth is Yudhishthira. It is an honor to be loved by him. It is an honor to do this for him. And that is why I am here. I want the world to know how wronged he was by Duryodhana. Please see, it is one thing for somebody to love Bhagavan. But where do you hear Bhagavan talking about his love for somebody like this? For Bhagavan to say, Yudhishthira is the greatest man that has ever been born in this world? For him to say, I love him so much, it shows you how the thing that Bhagavan considers is dharma. You follow dharma and you have Bhagavan's unflinching love. Anyways, he also says, I want Bhishma and Drona to see how they have sided with adharma, how they have done so much papa over all of these years. And so now he goes to Dhritarashtra and he tells Dhritarashtra, Bhagavan Krishna, Lord of the universe, tells Dhritarashtra, it is in your hands. It is in your hands to stop this war. It is in your hands. He said it is not a sabha where injustice is happening. Right? You have to stop this. And Dhritarashtra says, but I'm helpless. Duryodhana is not listening to me. And Duryodhana says, well, I don't understand why everyone is blaming me. I didn't do anything. They came and they want to wage war on me. I haven't done anything wrong. So they're the ones who are at fault. They're the ones who are attacking. And Bhagavan Krishna looks at him and says, you have the audacity to say you have done nothing? You are the most sinful man on the face of this earth and you disgust me. Bhagavan Krishna is speaking to Duryodhana like this, right? And with great arrogance, Duryodhana and his gang leave the hall. And Krishna looks at the elders and he says, I blame all of you for what is happening here. And he says that if you really have your heads straight, you will go to this Duryodhana, Dushasana, Shakuni and Karna, and you will imprison them and you will put them away and you will return back the Pandavas' kingdom to them. And this way, so all the Kshatriyas will be saved by this action of yours. Dhritarashtra is too weak to do that. Bhagavan Krishna says, look at me. At the age of like 8 years old, I killed my own uncle for this reason. So I'm not telling you something that is undoable. Go and you still have a chance to fix things. Dhritarashtra calls for backup. Who is his backup? Duryodhana's mother. Duryodhana's mother, Gandhari. And she tells Duryodhana, you are not fit to be a king. And she says, don't be foolish. Stop this. And he walks out on her with arrogance also. And he goes to his friends and he tells them, I am sick of all the lectures. It is time for us to just imprison this Krishna. Enough of this. And so Viduraji says, why are you allowing all this to happen? And Krishna says, this is his final act. You wait. And so now Bhagavan Krishna goes and Duryodhana comes to try to imprison him. And Bhagavan Krishna gives his Virat Roop darshan. Means everyone there sees thousands of heads and thousands of hands and thousands of legs and all the universes in this Bhagavan Krishna. And Bhishma and Drona and all the great rishis, they can't blink also. They don't want to, for a second, lose sight of this grand vision of Bhagavan that they're seeing in front of them. And a miracle happens, and this blind Dhritarashtra, he develops vision for a few moments where he's able to see Bhagavan Krishna in his Virat Roop. With ordinary eyes, everyone is seeing. This is Bhagavan's blessing. And this earth starts to shake because of how terrible the form is. And Bhagavan, out of compassion, takes back his normal form. And Dhritarashtra says, now that I have seen you, I never want to see anything again. Please take my vision back. I don't want to see anything. And he says to Krishna, I have no choice. Look, Duryodhana doesn't listen to me. And Bhagavan Krishna turns and looks at all of them and he says, you are all you elders, Bhishma, Drona, Dhritarashtra, you are all to blame for what is happening. The blame is on you. He doesn't let them go. He doesn't put the blame on Duryodhana. He puts it on the elders. Because when there's someone who's supposed to guide and they don't guide, the papa comes to that person. If a child turns out bad, the papa goes to the parent, not to the child. The child will face their own papa, but the papa goes to the parent for not fixing the child. Okay? And so now, Bhagavan Krishna goes back to Yudhishthira and he says, you have to fight. War is going to happen now. And so, full swing, all the preparations start, and then they decide that Drishtadyumna, who's Draupadi's brother, is going to be the commander-in-chief, and all kinds of preparations start, right? But as the preparations are going on, I want to tell you all a little side. I want to focus now on this character called Karna. Karna is Duryodhana's best friend. He has a very interesting backstory. He is actually, he's a, what is it called? He's an orphan. Means he doesn't know who his parents are. He was abandoned in a box when he was a little baby, and he was found by a charioteer and her wife and brought up by them. And the charioteer's wife is called Radha, so the woman who brought him up is Radha, so he considers his mother Radha, so his name is Radheya. This Radheya is very powerful. He's the one person who has the capacity to fight Arjuna. And so Yudhishthira is actually very worried about the fact that when Karna and Arjuna fight, well, Karna might win, he might kill Arjuna. And so, while they were in the forest, one day, this Yudhishthira had said to Indra, who is Arjuna's father, he said, I'm worried about the power that this Karna has. And Indra promised he would take care of it. So one day, in Radheya's sleep, in Karna's sleep, Surya Devata comes to his dream. And he says to him, Karna, you are very noble, and I know that when you go and you offer your Sandhya Vandana, at that time, when anybody comes to you and asks you for anything, you cannot say no. You give them whatever it is that they want. Well, tomorrow, Indra Devata is going to come to you as a Brahmana. And he's going to ask you for this kavach and kundal, your earrings and your armor that you have been born with, right? That They are the things that make you strong and protected and immortal. He's going to come and ask you for it. I want you to say no. Don't give it to him. And Karna is so moved by his love, and he says, you are my Ishtadevata, my favorite form of Bhagavan. But when I got the stigma of being called a Suta Putra, of low birth, I took a vow to become famous because of my dana. And I have gotten so much fame from that punya, and I have gotten so much peace from that vow that I cannot give up that vow. His vow was so he could become famous. And he says, I love my fame too much to give it up, and so I would rather give up my kavach and my kunda. And he says to Surya Devata that I know I'm meant to be defeated by Arjuna, right? And I know that Arjuna is meant to be successful. And so Surya Devata realizes that he cannot do anything. This man has made up his mind. And he says, well, when Indra asks you for his kavach and his kundo, in return, ask him for his shakti. He has a weapon called a shakti, and it is so powerful it will kill thousands of people. So in exchange for your kavach and kundo, you take that shakti from him. And so Karna says, okay. Now Karna sounds like a very noble person, but remember who his friend is. His friend is Duryodhana, right? So this Karna, he thinks he's a victim of fate and all of this, right? Anyways, Indra Devata comes to him the next day with a begging bowl. And Karna looks at him and says, what can I give you? And he says, I would like you to give me your kavacha and your kundala. And Karna says, I know who you are. I know you are Indra. And he says, I am proud to give this to Indra, who gives to the world, And so the world is going to say that Karna sacrificed his life for his dharma. My dharma is if anyone asks me for something, I'm going to give it. And so he rips off this kavach from his body. It is literally part of his body. He rips it off him, and he rips off his earrings, and he gives it to Indra. And Indra Devata is shocked at how easily this Karna has given this thing that protects him. And he says, ask for a bow. And Karna says, well, when I give, it is not befitting of me to ask, because I give unconditionally. And he said, but for your sake, to defend your honor, I am going to ask for something. And he says, to save your honor, I am asking you for your shakti. Because people will say, well, Indra took away his kavach and his kundo, but he gave him his shakti. So to save you, I'm asking. Like this he presents it. And Indra says, okay, fine, I will give you my shakti. It kills thousands of people for me, but for you it will only kill one person, and it will come back to me. And Karna says, well, that's okay, I have only one enemy. I need it only for one person. For Arjuna, who is his son. And Indra says, I know you want to use this on Arjuna, but let me tell you, as long as Bhagavan Krishna is with Arjuna, nobody can defeat him. And Karna said, well, I still have hope. And at this time, Indra Devata blesses him, and he says, you will forever be known as the greatest giver. When anyone talks about dana, they will say, you're a giver like Karna. This is the blessing Indra Devata gives in exchange for the kavach and kundal that he got. And so Indra Devata took his mortal life and gave him immortal fame in exchange. Okay, now fast forward. So this happened while the Pandavas were in the forest. Now fast forward to when Bhagavan Krishna has just finished showing his Virat Roop Darshan. You know that scene we just saw? And everybody sees that this is Lord of the universe. And at this time, Bhagavan Krishna, when he's heading out to go meet Yudhishthira, he invites Karna to come onto his chariot, and he takes him to a remote place, and he takes a walk with him. And he says, Karna, you're a good man. You actually have nobility. Why is it that you are siding with this papi Duryodhana? Why are you on the side of this wicked Duryodhana? And Karna said, because Duryodhana is the one person who has loved me, who supported me when I had nobody. And I have given my heart, my life to Duryodhana. And Krishna says, it is true that the debt of gratitude is something that is the most difficult to pay. And he says, but let me tell you, he says, do you know who your mother is? And But because of societal pressure, she couldn't keep you, and that is why she sent you away. She has 5 sons, and her heart is still empty every single day, thinking about you, remembering you. And now this Radha asks, well, who is she? Because which other princess is there who has 5 sons? And he's thinking, really? Can it be? And he says, yes. Kunti is your mother. The Pandavas are your brothers. Surya Devata is your father. And he tells the circumstances by which she couldn't keep. And Karna starts to cry. And Karna says, but you knew this all along. Why did you not tell me earlier? Or why are you telling me now if you had to tell me? Or why did you just not tell me? He said, I was happy hating the Pandavas. I was protected by my hatred for them. Now I can't hate them anymore. And Bhagavan says, it is because I want to save you from death. You know Dharma. Give up the side of Adharma and come to the side of Dharma. I will take you to the Pandavas. I will tell you that you are the eldest Pandava. Yudhishthira will give everything to you. He will serve you. You will be the greatest emperor in this universe. You will have fame. You will have love. You will be unconditionally accepted. You will have a mother's love. You will have brother's love. You will have everything. And Karna says, no, I cannot. I cannot leave Duryodhana. And he makes Bhagavan Krishna promise not to tell the Pandavas that he is their brother until after he dies. And he tells Arjuna, he tells Krishna that I know we're going to lose. I know it. I know they're going to win, but I cannot leave Duryodhana. He's banking on me, and he's given me so much, and so I have to fight for him. I wanted to finish Karna's section, but I just realized time is finished. So we'll have to finish this tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll see how Kunti, the mother of Karna, comes to him now to try one more time. To try and plead with him to come to the side of Dharma. Okay? So that we'll have to see tomorrow if you're interested in seeing how it happens. Tomorrow the war is starting. Actually now, everything is clear. Bhagavan has said to Duryodhana and to Yudhishthira the final word, war is happening. And everyone has started preparing wherever they are. All the troops are moving towards Kurukshetra and they're getting ready to fight this indescribable battle of good and evil, Dharma and Adharma. Okay? And so now we'll see that tomorrow. I hope that from the negotiations that happened, you got a little insight into how we can also think about our own decisions and what the measures of goodness and weakness are as we think about the decisions that we make in our life, right? But tomorrow the real drama, the real final, the climax is tomorrow. Well, starts tomorrow. The Mahabarata war goes on for 18 days. So lots of things happen over those days. So we'll see that in the next few days. Thank you so much to Pandita Vishkar once again and to everybody at the Mandir for hosting, for being here. I hope that this Mahabharata is as inspiring to you as it is to me. And you can tune in online to see what happens. Actually, tomorrow we're close by. We're in Huhu. Tomorrow, if you want to come in person, you're welcome to come. Otherwise, it will be streamed online as well.